Today I'm going to show you how I made this, a Tailor's clapper. My dad asked me if I would make him a Tailor's clapper. I had this offcut of sycamore lying around which seemed perfect for the job. I wanted to make sure that when measuring the pieces it would be equal in height and width. Using my Axminster bandsaw, I cut off the piece that I wanted. Once I had the offcut that I wanted, I face-planed one side as the board had a slight wobble, and then ran it through the thicknesser to make sure that the board was nice and flat. If you want to see a full review of this machine, click the pop-out banner that's on the screen now. I got out my Dewalt table saw and ran the board through to get both pieces that were needed. I'm ripping the base and the handle to their final widths here. And next, using my cross-cut sled, I cut the pieces to their final length. Here's a quick visual of what the final shape will look like. I grabbed a 4-inch pipe that was the perfect diameter for the size of the base piece and traced a line around it marking out the curve. For the handle, I free-handed this mostly, but still made use of the 4-inch pipe in order to get some of the curves started. Back to the bandsaw, I cut the base and the handle. You'll notice that I'm not cutting right to the line on these pieces, as I'll be using my drum sander to sand them down to their final shapes. One small tip is if you're making cuts around tight corners using a larger blade on the bandsaw, make relief cuts which help the blade move through the wood easier without any risk of binding or twisting. With a larger radius cuts, it's not needed as much. Luckily, the Amazon man arrived that day and brought me my new Triton drum sander. I have to say, even after using it once, it's a brilliant machine. You can see how it makes light work of sanding the pieces to their final shapes. If you're in the market for a drum sander on a light budget, I'd definitely check this out. I'm using a set of calipers to find the centre of the base, so that when I find the centre on the handle, I can make sure that when it's attached, they line up perfectly. Once that was done, I marked the centre points and using a punch tool, made a dimple to start the drill bit in the right place. 2 minutes on the drill press and the holes were sorted. I test fit the pieces to make sure that they lined up and they were perfect. Using my palm router, I rounded over the edges of both the base and the handle, partly for aesthetics but also to make it more comfortable to hold. Back on the drum sander, I needed to sand one end of the top to a point. As you can see, it made light work of it. Using a rasp, I rounded over the edges where the sander had squared them up and fine-tuned the profile, firstly using 120 grit sandpaper and then 240. This didn't take much effort at all and I'm pretty pleased with the result. I gave the two pieces a final sanding using the orbital sander using 240 grit paper, as once they were assembled, it would be awkward to get into the tight spots where the handle met the base. I could also give the underside of the pointed edge a final sanding to smooth this out too. The glue up here was really straightforward. 2 dowels and a blob of glue, which was plenty to make sure that they stayed nice and solid. I clamped it up just to give some added pressure, but I'm not entirely certain it was needed. It was then left overnight to dry, and that was it. Done. Hope you've enjoyed the video. If so, please be sure to give it a like. Thanks for watching.